set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always...
Hello guys, and welcome to another video. Today we'll be looking at how the previous gen hardware performs in current gen games. Now let's look at the settings that I have set for Fortnite. I have everything maxed out because I wanted to check to see how the current configuration, the RTX 3080 10GB version with Ryzen 5800X, performs in Unreal Engine 5.1. I believe that this engine will be used in other games, in other upcoming games, and I wanted to see how this configuration behaves in this game. So as we can see, we have really bad frame rates. I mean, we have around 40 FPS, and sometimes we have dips. I observed this even when without recording, as now I have a little bit less frames than I would have if I was not recording. But this is actually happening without recording, so I'm not sure if this is needs a patch, or there are like some issues with the drivers. I have the latest version. I see the description, but it kind of has some stuttering, and it actually can really impact your play. So now we're going to change the settings, and we will turn off ray tracing and see the performance difference. And as you'll see, the difference is not that high. I was expecting a little bit more, but the difference between ray tracing on and off are minor. Now let's look a bit at how it performs without OBS. So here are the results. As you can see, there is not a big difference between those frame rates with ray tracing on and off. But I must confess that the game looks quite well. Looks quite good. I mean, even though if we don't have ray tracing on, it still looks really nice. Okay, so let's look now at another game that was recently upgraded from DirectX 11 to DirectX 12, and I must confess that the performance in this game is actually worse. So let's see at the graphic settings that I have set. So I'm playing on 1440p, unlimited, no limits on frame rates, but yeah, the frame rates are very low. Ray tracing is on, everything is on. I haven't aliasing turned off because I wanted to see if this actually can improve performance. Later on I will turn it on, and I will also show you the difference with DLSS and FSR enabled. So I must confess that water looks good, but the other parts of the game I'm not impressed at all. I mean, I'm not sure what they did. I mean, they probably just added lights or something, or shadows. They changed that in the game, because the engine probably is an improved version, and I must confess that I was expecting it to behave like this, because this is a game from the creators of Cyberpunk, and at the beginning it was really awful, the performance. So now let's look with anti-aliasing and see how the game looks like and how it performs. But I was expecting it to have a little bit more impact, but the difference between anti-aliasing on and off is not that big, but it looks better. Here you can see the rock there, that doesn't, the shadow disappears and appears, and this is not the only case that you can see in this game. There are multiple issues like that. Probably this will be fixed in a later on patch, but expect to have some issues like that. The performance here in the city, this is the area that I will do the benchmark, and the benchmark results are from this area. it's low. I mean, around 30 FPS, above 30 FPS, it's okay for this kind of game, but I would probably prefer to have around 60 FPS, as I think the input latency can be felt. And as you can see here, the boy disappears from the screen, the shadows disappears and appears. So there are a lot of bugs like this if you play this game. I finished this game uh, on PlayStation 4, but I must confess that I was expecting to have a greater improvement here. So let's check it when we enable DLSS quality mode to see how many frame rates can we get. So we are around in some areas 60 FPS, but when we are close to the town or the village, the frame rates are around 40. It hovers in the city or in towns. I saw that around 30 something, and when we exit the villages or towns, it has more. I don't know why. Maybe because of the smoke there in front, or I'm not sure. So now let's check to see if we enable FSR, we will get better frame rates, but don't have high hopes on that. So let's see. As you can see, it performs more or less the same. So as you can see in the benchmark results here, the FSR, when enabling FSR and DLSS, the performance is quite similar. So let's look at another game that was recently released. So this is the configuration, the graphic settings for A Plague's Tale, the latest version. As I already mentioned, I don't really like motion blur, so I usually disable it. But I play with the other settings set to maximum. And I must confess that this game performs good on previous gen hardware, in the sense that we have above 60 most areas of the game with everything maxed out, and this type of game we don't really need to have hundreds of FPS frame rates here. As you can see, the game looks amazing, the graphics looks quite good, and it performs quite well. As you can see, it actually, my GPU is pushed to the maximum. It's close to 340 watts, so the CPU can push the GPU to its maximum. But I must confess that I was expecting it to behave worse than this. This game looks really nice, a lot better than Witcher. Even though this game doesn't have any ray tracing, I must confess that it looks quite well. It is to be expected, as Witcher just has a patch to add ray tracing. It doesn't really improve other things, or I didn't see that, but this one is actually quite has a new engine, and it's actually built with DirectX 12. The performance on this game is quite well. I know there are areas where you have the rats. When you have the rats there, it will lower the frame rate, but besides that, I think this game performs quite well, and we can actually maximize everything and play the game with everything maxed out without any issue. So let's look at the overall results. As you can see here, most of the games have around 50 or above 50 FPS. This is without recording, and the only one that performs a little bit worse is Witcher 3 with ray tracing enabled. But as you can see here, we have average performance around 50. But let's look a little bit at the most important thing. As you can see here, we have games that hover around 10 and 20 FPS. This is quite bad. This is why you experience stutters in the game. I mean, having this kind of frame rates and going then towards 40, you'll see the difference and you can feel it. And all games here, besides A Plague Tale and Gotham, were tested with ray tracing on and off. A Plague Tale doesn't have any ray tracing, and Gotham has ray tracing, and I tested it with ray tracing as it performs quite well. So here we have the issue. If we disable this and we look at only the average FPS, the frame rate for a game, you'd think that the games perform well. But as we enable and as I add the minimum frame rate, as you can see, the difference between the average and minimum is quite high, and because of that we have a lot of stutters. So I'm not sure if because of DDR4 and because previous gen hardware, or it's just bad optimization by the developer and the game. So thank you guys for watching, and hope to see you in the next one. If you like the video, please subscribe.